Okay, Thursday night we were learning the dinim of what's called in Kitzur that all the kavanas of a person should be l'shem shemayim. So Kitzur quoted a pasuk that says b'chol drachecha do'ehu, in all your ways know Hashem, meaning even not in mitzvahs, even things that just pertain to your personal life, eating it, you're going to elaborate on each one. Whatever it is, you should do it by understanding Hashem, doing it for Hashem, and not doing it just because you're like an animal that likes to eat and drink and have a good time. So he says, what does it mean, achilu shtiya? What does it mean when the halacha is that you have to eat and drink in a way of knowing Hashem? So obviously he says, number one, for sure, you can't eat non-kosher things. That's a given. But even permissible things, if you eat it stam for your own personal gratification, your own personal enjoyment, is not so good. What should you eat and drink for? To have strength to be able to serve Hashem properly. We learned already, the Rebbe brings down in a Yom Yom, there was a story with the Rebbetzin Rivka, who was the wife of the Rebbe Marash, whose yahrzeit happened to be the Yud Shvat, was her yahrzeit. Anyway, so she was very sick. She was very frum. So she never ate before davening. So she would get up, daven, and then she would eat. But she became very sick, and the doctors ordered her that she needs to eat as soon as she gets up. As soon as she gets up, she needs to eat. But she didn't want to eat before davening. So let's say if she davened every day at 7 and finished at 8, so now what did she do? She got up at 6 to finish davening at 7, which would be the time she normally woke up, and then she ate breakfast. And it's understood that it didn't make her better, obviously. So her father-in-law, the Tzemach Tzedek, called her in and said, a Yid has to be healthy to be able to serve Hashem. And he concluded by saying to her, it's better to eat in order to daven than to daven in order to eat. In your case, you were doing the wrong thing, because why were you davening? To be able to eat on time. He said it's better to eat in order to daven than to daven in order to eat. So therefore, ideally, and we're not in the level of tzaddik, we only eat l'shem shemayim, therefore we dafki eat food that we don't like. We're not talking about that. The general attitude of a person has to be that they're eating because they need to be healthy. When the previous Rebbe was a little boy, it's also a very famous story, when the Frierdiker Rebbe was a little boy, he asked his father, he asked his father a question. He said, I don't understand the difference between a Yid and a Goy. A Yid, a Jew eats, a Goy eats. A Yid drinks, a Goy drinks. Like, what's the difference between a Yid and a Goy? So the Rebbe Rashab told him to call in, they had a Goyish servant by the name of Ivan, a Russian peasant that worked in the house. And this Russian peasant spoke Yiddish, because he hung around the Rebbe's house a lot, so he spoke Yiddish. So he comes into the Rebbe Rashab in front of the previous Rebbe, and he says to him, Ivan, in Yiddish, he said to him, you ate today? He said, yeah. You ate well? Yeah. Why do you eat? In order to live. And why do you live? Don't forget, it's a Russian peasant. Why do you live? He said, to make another shot of vodka with a chaser. So he told him, you can go call in the Yiddish Mesharis in the house, Yiddish servant in the house, also a Pasha to Yid. He calls him in and he says, tell me, you ate today? Baruch Hashem. You ate well? Baruch Hashem. Why do you eat? In order to live. And why do you live? And he answered, to serve Hashem, and with that he gave a krech sasai, as if to say, I'm not living up to the standard I should be living. And the Rebbe Rashab told him he can go. And then he turned to his son, who was a little boy, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he said to him, you see, that's the difference between a Yid and a Goy. They both eat well, they both eat to live. The question, why do you live? And that manifests itself in the difference of why you're eating. The person, a Yid, is supposed to eat because they need to be healthy. They need to be healthy. In fact, well, the Frierdiker Rebbe said when he was a little boy, this doesn't, it should apply today, but later it doesn't. Sad to say it doesn't. The Frierdiker Rebbe, when he was a little boy, said, one of the first things they taught him in the house as a kid, whatever you're given to eat, you eat. Not to be a picky, fussy, no, I don't want this. It's like every house now becomes a restaurant. Every kid wants a different food, and the mothers go crazy. He said one of the first things he learned as a kid, You eat what you're given there, you eat it because you have to eat. So whatever you're given, that's what you eat. And that's the lesson what Kitzur says. That's what it means eating l'shem shamayim, that you eat in order to be healthy. And not like he says, a kelev, a chamor, a dog, a donkey, and so on. So what do you mean yeshiva v'kima? Getting up and getting down, going up and down, getting up, going to sleep. He says, obviously, as the first pasuk can tell, says, "U'meishiv leitzim layoshav." You don't sit in a group of scoffers, and you shouldn't stand. The first pasuk, right? You shouldn't stand in the wicked people. So you have to go tamim tiyam Hashem Elokecha. A person has to be sincere. He should do everything l'shem shemayim, and he should just live properly, not to be overly indulged in gashmiistic thing. What does it mean sleeping? He says a person should sleep not at the time when he's learning. In other words, Hashem set up the day. Day is day, night is night. The Eibishter could have made all day or all night or whatever. He didn't do it like that. Why not? Because Hashem said there's a time to work, there's a time to learn. The Gemara says, "Le'ivro laila ela legirsa." The purpose of night was people that can't go to work. It was dark in those days. You couldn't work in the fields at night. But it was made that the people should sit and learn. That's why the purpose of night, the Gemara says, was to learn. So a person should not just oversleep because by Yeshiva Bachim there's an expression, they slept a bagel. You know a bagel? A bagel is round. So if they sleep 12 hours in a row, they slept a bagel. It goes around the clock, around all 12 hours. A person should sleep. In fact, we'll learn it later when you get to the dinim of night. There's 3 opinions how many hours a person needs to sleep at night. The Rambam in Hilchos Deis says a person should sleep 8 hours a night. 8 hours a night, the Rambam says a person should sleep. In Kitzur, later on, he paskins 6 hours a night. And there's another opinion they bring down that says you should sleep 7 hours a night. So basically 6, 7, or 8. According to the Rambam, 8, according to Kitzur, 6, according to other opinions, 7. But a person should sleep because he needs to wake up healthy and, to be healthy again and not to get lost in sleep. What does it mean, talking? Also in Hilchos Deis, the Rambam brings down that a chacham, a wise person, is niked b'achilase, b'shtiyase, b'sichase, b'tiyulei. The Rambam says a chacham, a wise person, meaning a Torah person, you can recognize him the way he eats and drinks and walks and talks. You can tell if this is a Torah person or not. So he says, speaking, definitely not lashon hara, things which are forbidden, like we learned to the chilas, leitonis, nivel peh. Nivel peh actually means despicable language, improper language that people are customary to speak because it sounds good, to make them sound good. There's a very interesting Gemara in Ksubis. The Gemara says, "Kol hamenabel piv," whoever speaks nivel peh, meaning disgusting language, even if it was decreed in heaven, sealed in heaven, 70 years of good, it's ripped up and it's changed to 70 years of bad. In fact, we find even in Chumash, and the Gemara in Pesachim learns it out from Psukim and Chumash, the Torah doesn't even say behema tmeya. By the Mabul, when Noach was bringing in the animal, which animals to bring. So Hashem said to Noach, a behema tahira, bring 7, 7. Umin a behema asher eineno tahira, and from the behema which is not pure. So the Gemara says himself, why didn't the Torah say behema tmeya? The Gemara says, Ikam HaKosi Yud Aleph Eisius. The Gemara says, a person, the Torah, added another 11 letters. In every letter in Torah, you learn out tractates from a letter of Gemara, of a Torah. The Gemara added another 11 letters to teach us a person needs to speak properly. So the Rebbe explains, in Chumash we find behema tmeya. We do find the word behema tmeya. What does the Torah Gemara say that should always speak good? So the answer is very simple. About the poskim write this also. When you need to give a psak halacha, when you need to make a ruling in halacha, you can't say not pure, because the person maybe didn't hear not, and he heard the pure. So then you have to say clearly behema tameya, that it's tamei. But if you're telling a story like by Noach, Hashem says no psak halacha. Then Hashem tells him take from the kosher animals, and they're not animals which are not kosher. So then the Torah is teaching us that a person needs to speak in a nice language. Even there are many tzaddikim, when they speak, they don't say the word maves. They don't say the word death. They say heipach hachayim, the opposite of life. Oh, well, it's there's a lot of things about this, by the way. In the Gemara, all over, when the Gemara says a blind person, how does the Gemara, in Hebrew it's called Iver, but how does the Gemara call a blind person? Sagi nahar. Sagi nahar, that's how the Gemara describes a blind person. Now, Sagi nahar, literally in Aramaic, means an abundance of light. Sagi means abundance, nahar means light. Yet the Gemara calls a blind person Sagi nahar. So simply, there's a deeper meaning why. But simply the reason is, the Gemara wants to speak nice. The Gemara doesn't want to say blind. The Gemara says abundance of light. Therefore, a cemetery is called Beis HaChaim. It's called Beis HaChaim. And the Rebbe once spoke a sikha many years ago that he doesn't understand why hospitals are called Bet Cholim. It's a negative word. Cholim is a negative word. The Rebbe said, why? You see in Torah, the Torah speaks positively. Why don't they call it Bet Rofim, the house of doctors? That's much more positive than to say the home of the sick. And he said he doesn't understand why in Hebrew it's called Bet Cholim instead of Bet Rofim. It should be called the home of the doctors, because that's a much more positive thing. You have a lot of expressions in Torah like this. The Torah says,
Bet Rofim, the house of healing.
Bet Rofim, doctors are healing, or refuah, whatever, Bet Refuah. Well, you said that. Beis HaChaim. The truth of the matter is, it's explained in Chassidus, that why is a blind person called Sagi Nahar? It's not a lie. It's not time to say a nice word, but he has an abundance of light. He doesn't have abundance of light. He's blind. He doesn't see. It says, on the contrary, why is a person blind? Why is a person Chas v'Sholom blind? So it says in Kabbalah and Chassidus, a very simple thing. The neshama could see. The neshama could see. Therefore, we find, unlike the medical explanation for it, two parents that are blind, God forbid, can give birth to a child that could see. Medically, it's possible. So you ask, how can that be? Parents are blind. How is it possible that they give birth to a child that could see? So the answer, medically, the answer is because they the genes skip a generation. So the grandparents were able to see. So this, according to Chassidus and Kabbalah, it's a totally different answer. The answer is very simple. The neshama could see. The neshama has sight. Why is a person Chas v'Sholom blind? It's not because the neshama is missing the power of sight. The reason is either there's something physically wrong with the eye, so therefore it's not a vessel for the power of sight that goes into the eye, or somewhere in the connection between the neshama and the eye, that might be physically good, but there's something in the connection between the neshama and the eye, but not that the neshama can't see. The neshama could see. So therefore, two blind parents, or deaf parents for the same reason, can give birth to a child that sees because they have the ability of seeing. The neshama has it. And the fault that the child that can't see has, they don't have that fault in the keli, in the eye, or in the connection. So therefore, they're able to see. So therefore, why is a person called Sagi Nahar? So it says, why can't he see? Because there's too much power of the neshama for the vessel. The vessel can't handle it. So because there's too much light, Sagi Nahar, because Torah is emes. Torah doesn't lie. Sagi Nahar is emes. He has an abundance of light. That's why he can't see. Because the vessel can handle that abundance of light relative to the limb of the eye, and therefore he's not able to see. That's the issue with that. Okay, anyway, so a person always has to speak nice. There's another thing that we learned before. there's two things. There's Dvarim Asurim, things which are forbidden, like Lashon Hara, the Chilas, the Tzanis, those are forbidden. And then you have what's called Dvarim B'Teilim. Dvarim B'Teilim simply means idle words. So what's the definition of idle words? Simply it means they're not sinful, they're not holy. So like you speak about baseball, it's not sins, it's not holy, but it's Dvarim B'Teilim, it's not V'dibarta Bam speak Torah. What the Rebbe once said, it says in Sfarim even more than that. What happens if I speak to you about doing a mitzvah, whatever, and it has no effect on you whatsoever? So even though I spoke holy things about you doing a mitzvah, if it didn't have its effect, it's called Dvarim B'Teilim, because they didn't accomplish anything. So it's Machat Shinasur Meiser Meimer Beva Mayin Kim Shivla Gal Teira Hanan Menakashe